Morning had fully claimed the sky, its light stretching across the desert, in long ribbons of gold and quiet warmth. The dunes shimmered softly, their curves glowing, as though the sun had chosen them as its first canvas. I walked with steady steps, each one guided not by memory, but by something deeper, something gentler, a trust I was finally learning to place in myself. The air carried the faint scent of warmed sand and distant blossoms. Somewhere far off, hidden beyond ridges and valleys of dunes, a desert flower must have bloomed. The thought made me smile. How life always found a way to exist in places where nothing seemed possible. Perhaps I was like that flower, growing in unexpected soil, finding strength in the very silence I once feared. As the sun climbed higher, I reached a wide, open valley. The dunes around it rose in soft waves, forming a natural cradle of space, a place untouched, pure, silent in a sacred way. I stood at its center, closed my eyes, and let the sunlight settle over me like a warm blessing. There was no rush, no need to chase anything anymore. Healing had become less of a destination and more of a gentle unfolding. In the quiet, a memory surfaced, your voice once calling my name with a warmth I thought would never fade. But now, the memory carried no sharpness, no weight. It drifted through me like a soft cloud crossing the sky. Present, but not defining. I whispered into the still air, I do not wish for you to return. I wish you peace, even far from me. The wind lifted lightly, as if carrying those words away, to a place where they belonged, a place not here, not now. When I opened my eyes, I noticed something ahead, a lone track in the sand, barely visible, almost erased by the morning breeze. It could have been an animal, a traveler, or a path left by someone who once passed through, seeking the same clarity I had found. I followed it slowly, not because I needed to know where it led, but because following something gentle felt right. The track led me toward a higher ridge. Climbing it, I felt the warmth intensify, my breaths deepening with effort, but not struggle. Effort born of choice always feels different from effort born of longing. When I reached the top, the world opened again. Endless dunes, wide skies, a horizon stretching like a quiet promise. I sat on the ridge, letting the wind brush gently against my face. The desert was alive, not empty, filled with stories in every line of sand, every shifting shadow, every whisper of breeze. I thought of destiny, how often we imagine it as a path laid out for us, waiting to be discovered. But here, with the whole world open before me, I understood something else. Destiny is not found, it is chosen. The heart knows, it always knows. We only struggle when we try to silence it. I rested my hand over my chest, feeling the gentle, steady beat, a rhythm no loss had ever stolen, a rhythm no fear could break. The sun had climbed higher now, casting a warm brightness across the dunes. The shadows grew shorter, pulling close to the ground, as though even they knew that today was a day meant for clarity, not for hiding. I walked with calm determination, feeling the rhythm of my steps sync with the pulse of the desert. Every footfall carried the strength of the person I was becoming, someone no longer bound by the echoes of yesterday. Ahead, the sand shimmered like a field of golden light, the heat rising gently in thin, wavering lines. But instead of exhaustion, I felt energized, as though the desert itself was breathing life into me with each warm breeze that touched my skin. In the distance, a cluster of rock formations stood like ancient guardians, weathered, silent, etched with the stories of thousands of forgotten travelers. I headed toward them, drawn by a sense that something awaited me there. Not a revelation, but a realization. When I reached the rocks, their surfaces felt cool, despite the rising heat. I placed my palm against one of the stone faces, feeling its steady presence beneath my hand. How many years had it stood here? How many storms had it endured? And still, it remained unbroken, patient, anchored in its own truth. I closed my eyes and let that strength seep into me. For so long, I had measured my worth by what I lost, by who left, by the promises that faded, like distant footprints in the sand. But today, under this honest sun, I felt a different truth rising within me. My worth was never defined by who remained. It was defined by how I continued when no one else did. The desert wind picked up slightly, swirling around the rocks and brushing against my clothes. It carried warmth and wisdom, the kind that speaks without needing words. I sat on a flat stone, letting the sun warm my shoulders. The world stretched wide before me, pure, open, unending. And in that openness, I felt something soften inside me, a fear I had lived with for years. The fear of being alone began to dissolve. Because here, surrounded by silence and sand, I realized a truth that felt both gentle and powerful. Being alone was not the same as being lonely. There was a peace in being with myself, a quiet, grounded calm that no memory of you could overshadow anymore. I tilted my head back, letting the sunlight fall on my face. I breathed deeply, letting each inhale and exhale flow naturally, without resistance. Everything felt lighter. Not because I had forgotten you, but because remembering you no longer hurt. You were a chapter, a page turned, a story learned. Nothing more, nothing less. I stood again, my shadow small beside me. No longer something to fear or to escape, just a part of me. Like the past I had finally accepted. The wind shifted, coming from the east this time, carrying with it the faintest trace of fragrance. Like musk, like dry earth after rain, like something sacred, a new direction, a new calling.